In this video, I'll be going over creating transactions on a customer record. Having already created individual products, a series, and series subscription models, I now have the ability to create product sales, subscriptions, and donations on a customer's transaction history. While many installations will have the process of creating transactions set up through their website, I'm going to show the method for manual entry, which will be necessary from time to time and will give a good insight into Daemon's transaction design. Once you're on the record you want to add the transaction to, scroll down to the transaction list and click the plus icon. In the window that comes up on the left, there's a sidebar showing the progress through the transaction creation process. The first page has some basic components of the transaction, like the price and payment information. It also has information on discounts and fees, which affect data reporting and invoice presentation. Clicking the Add Fee or Discount button creates a new row that you can change to fit your needs. After creating one fee or discount, simply click the button again to make another. The price you enter on the transaction should be the final price paid, and any fee or discount you add will affect the fee breakdown but not the final price of the transaction. The address selector will automatically be filled with the customer's primary address, or if the customer only has one address, that address will be selected. Otherwise, you will need to select the correct address. If the correct address doesn't yet exist on the record, you will need to create it. You can add a shipping note, transaction source, campaign, gift giver, and under advanced configuration, you can artificially change the entry date of the transaction. The object selectors for campaign and gift givers work very similarly to others we've been over in previous videos. The gift giver object selector loads the customer search in a separate window and lets you select an individual customer as the gift giver. The transaction will then also show up in the gift giver's transaction history with a special marking. If a campaign has auto-include turned on, the expiration date hasn't passed, and this customer record is in that campaign's population, the campaign object selector will automatically be filled with that campaign. Deselecting the campaign will block the auto-include. When you're finished on this page, click the next arrow on the top bar to continue to the next. This page is the type selection page. You can either create a subscription, product sale, or donation. Clicking on any one of the type selection buttons will bring you to the next page. I'll start by making a product sale. We're brought to a screen with a cart. To add items to the cart, click the plus icon in the top right corner of it. This will open a variant search. All of the products in your installation will be listed here, and you can search through them to select the products. To select a product, click on the blue circle. If the product has no variant options and only one variant, it will be added directly to the cart. Otherwise, it will open the product variant selection window. If there are no sellable variants for the product, the icon will be red. From this window, I can add any number of variants to the cart. I'll select hardcover and click the add icon at the bottom of the window. A notification comes up on the bottom right of the screen telling me that the item has been added, and the search window stays up to let me select more products. I'll add the Tower Treasure and the House on the Cliff to this transaction. Once I'm done selecting my cart items, I can click on the grayed out area of the screen to close the search. Make sure to only click once because every pop-up window closes this way, including the Add Transaction window. Now that I'm back in the Add Transaction window, I can view the items in the cart, change the count of any given item, or hover over the item and click the trash can icon to delete it. Clicking on the item gives me a context menu where I can get more information about the product and variant. Clicking the next icon on the bottom of the window lets me preview the transaction. Transactions almost always show up in this card format. There are a few key components of the card. At the top left of the card, the transaction type is listed. In this case, it says product sale. Immediately to the right of the type, the transaction price and payment method is listed. Clicking this gives me a full fee breakdown, including a reconciliation if the reported fees, products, and reported final amount don't add up. On the right side of the card, the transaction creation date is listed. Hovering over this gives a date that's easier to read in a tooltip. To the right of the creation date, there are a few important tags. These can show things like entry type, which is manual in this case, gift giver status, transaction note information, and more. Hovering over each of these gives a short description. For product sales, the rest of the transaction is taken up by the cart that shows which products and variants the customer received. Clicking the check icon creates the transaction, and you can see that it's immediately added to the customer's transaction history. Clicking on the transaction opens up a menu where you can review the transaction and make changes. Now I'm going to show the process of making a subscription. I'm going to go back through and fill in payment information and click the next arrow. Then select Subscription. There's a top bar with two tabs, Subscription and Promotional Items. Subscription is selected by default. Since there's only one series in my installation, the system automatically selects it for me. If there were more, a screen letting me select my series would come up. The two subscriptions I created in the video, Products and Series, are here for me to choose between. I can also select Manual Subscription, which lets me enter subscription data without creating a model first. This manual entry page lets me choose my data entry type. The data entry type also determines how much of the customer record is interpreted to create the transaction. If you select an entry type that has a start issuer date and an end issuer date, the transaction creation system won't check the customer for products already purchased at all. Selecting a data entry type that only has a duration forces the system to check through the customer record. I'm going to go back and use the time-based 1-year subscription model we created. Clicking it brings me directly to the preview screen. You can see that this transaction has a subscription name and a subscription range. To go back and change my selections, I can click Type Configuration on the sidebar. Selecting the to-issue subscription brings me to the preview screen again. The range of the subscription is listed as Hardy Boys 13 to 14, and the current issue is 12. It's also possible to add promotional items to a subscription. To do this, click the Promotional Items tab and fill the cart with any number of items. After doing that, go back and choose a subscription. Once the subscription is created, it will include the selected promotional items. It's also possible to do this later while going through the queue. If the customer record already has an active subscription, the subscription will be appropriately extended by the new one. The final transaction type is very simple. To create a donation, simply put the donation amount as the transaction amount and click Next. Click Donation as the transaction type. Choose whether the donation is anonymous or not with the switch, and click Next to preview. Then click the check to finalize the donation.